How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and I've got a interesting character that we're doing today.
Firebrand from Quality Comics.
No, we're not doing that Firebrand.
You said the 1941 Firebrand.
We are doing Firebrand from 1941.
The 1941 version is Quality.
You're not wrong, but you're also not right. There was a Firebrand that appeared in Chesler comics.
I don't know anything about this guy or his powers.
Because I'd be surprised if anybody besides me knew about this one. Yeah, we're covering a hero that is kind of, I guess you can almost say nature-based, but also scientifically based. He starts off as a worker who gets hit by the rays of the sun, which nearly kills him, and then the scientist discovers him and puts him into a scientific experiment. And then that helps to, I guess, control the power. So it's like two different elements coming together as one. But they never really reference the sun again. It almost seems kind of pointless to even put that as part of it. But this story is really, really obscure. He's never given a name. He only goes by Firebrand, and he somehow has total control over the powers that he just got. And they had said weeks or months later, that would have actually been better and more believable as how he had control over these powers. But I don't know if they were trying to long-term brand this hero or if it was just something that somebody wanted to get out. Now, when I originally started doing research, there was some articles or some references that said he was in other materials. I couldn't find him in those materials, and I searched a number of different comic book sites. There were a number of issues that were incomplete that I can't find completed forms on, and then some sites didn't even have the comic book at all. And even with looking at a synopsis of what was supposed to be in there, I still couldn't find anything verifying him being in other issues. So I'm going to go with him as being the one and done on this. If somebody can find a better synopsis, I'll say different, but I only found him in this one particular issue, which the first issues of Yankees comic had more than one hero that only appeared once. So let's get into Firebrand so you can see how unusual this guy is, and maybe later on we can dive into the quality comic version of it. But here he is in Chesler Comics. Let's do this. Firebrand, real name unrevealed, first appeared in Yankee Comics number 1 in 1941. The original publisher is Chesler, and he is created by Charles Sultan. Now, I did, when I first looked him up, it said that he had multiple appearances, and not just this one in Yankee Comics. I couldn't find any other appearances. I couldn't verify that he appeared anywhere else, so I fixed it. But I'm just going to go that he's a one-and-done hero because I cannot find evidence of him being anywhere else. Okay. This is, he is unrevealed, and you see him kind of wearing a suit here. They never talk about the purpose of the suit. Considering that he was electrocuted, I guess maybe it's keeping him alive? It doesn't state. It doesn't say that he needs the suit for his powers. It doesn't say that it's keeping him alive. He's just wearing it. He doesn't ask any questions. And his powers are weird. He has the power to channel electricity and use it in certain ways, but he calls himself Firebrand. Now, he can charge the electricity through his legs, which lets him fly. He can generate a protective shield, which makes him invulnerable, because he was able to stop a truck running in its tracks. makes him bulletproof, and he's able to generate heat, which one guy even mentions, and he's able to fire out destructive bolts of energy. And that's the extent of his powers. When he clenches his fists, he channels the electricity and it works through him. When he's not making a fist anymore, the energy shield goes away and he becomes a normal person. And I guess he has the ability to channel electricity through his legs, regardless of whether his fists are clenched, which doesn't really explain anything. I mean, the story's a little dry, and they do things in this comic that don't make sense to what is going on narratively and with some of the things that they're saying. So, I mean, it's not a bad start. I mean, as they're starting it off, some of the stuff makes sense, but as it goes on, the amount of the things that are happening in the amount of time that it's happening doesn't make any sense. So let's go ahead and cover who I can only say is one and done because it's all I can find about him. And then you'll know as much as there is to know about Firebrand. Everything that I just talked about is revealed in the first issue. So our first, last, and only issue. Let's do this. Not a cover story, not a featured story. Okay. Firebrand, a strange bolt from the sun and a professor's uncanny knowledge of electricity, creates the most spectacular and dynamic crime fighter, the Firebrand, who at will controls a powerful death-dealing charge of electricity. In the noonday sun. How do you clarify time as noonday? Couldn't you just say at noon? Okay, in the noonday sun, a lineman is actively engaged repairing a broken wire. From the pit of the sun, a powerful bolt hurls earthward. No, that's not how any of that works. I mean, I don't. We get bathed in the rays of the sun all the time. Why is there a powerful ray striking this guy? That doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense at all. All right. As we get to the next page, we see him lying there and glowing. Let's see. From his car, Professor Rand, eminent electrical scientist. Well, he's an electrical scientist. Witnesses the amazing spectacle. If that man lives, I shall make him the subject of my experiments. Yes, let's experiment without his consent. Okay, so he puts on rubber gloves and takes them over into his lab. And while in the lab, you can see him in the containment suit inside of this capsule. Now, I love... It looks like there's electricity running through this entire machine, and his hand is on part of the equipment, and nothing's happening to him. Later in the professor's laboratory, if the experiment is successful, I'll have produced a man of unlimited strength and speed. You never talked about his speed, and you didn't produce him. The sun hit him with rays, and you just put him in a suit so he doesn't die. Okay, so he comes out. You see, if this was the experiment, you didn't need to do the thing with the sun, because you never referenced the sun again. It could have started with him as part of a lab experiment. It would have actually made a hell of a lot more sense. Okay, so he gets out and he tells them about the power, and he says, unclench your fists. The electrical ray is controlled by them. Your body is capable of generating enough power to destroy almost anything. That's a lot of classification. Okay, so he tells him that he can channel the electricity and he's not an ordinary man. So he goes, okay, I'm going to call myself Firebrand. All right. But suddenly the conversation is interrupted. A couple of soldiers who look like policemen come in. And let's see. We got to the garage. A bunch of men attacked us and escaped in the truck. And he says it must be part of this gang that's around. So Firebrand runs outside, and as he's running, it says, outside, the Firebrand's highly charged leg strikes the pavement, giving off a violent electrical charge, which propels him into the air, and now he's flying. He's not a pilot, yet he knows how to fly perfectly. So he lands outside of this truck, and they say that they're going to run him down, but he apparently clenches his fist again, and we can see the electronic aura around him as the truck crashes into him and crumples and comes to a complete stop. This guy ain't human. Okay, so we're going to shoot at him. So we see that the bullets are bouncing off of him, and he knocks out one guy and goes over to the other guy and says, "You're next." And he goes, "No, turn the heat off. I'll do anything you say." And he says that he's part of, I guess he says he's part of, it says all Rimmer told us was to get the stuff from the fort. So he's giving, I mean, he doesn't even know anything about Rimmer, but you're giving him up. Okay, so while he's holding you, he asks where the hideout is, and then you start to say, in the valley, opposite the, okay, sucker, you're through. So he's holding your vest, and then the next thing you know, you're away from him holding a knife. And then as you charge at him with the knife, he blasts you with an electrical ray. If the gun didn't work, what made you think that the knife was going to? There's only one valley around here, and that's opposite the fort. Guess I'll drop around and find out what this is all about. Yes, you're a very good boy. A short while later, the Firebrand comes to a startling sight in the valley. Look at that equipment. Must be meeting in the shack. A look in the shack won't hurt. Oh, okay. Why did you identify? You already identified the shack the first time. You didn't need to identify it as the shack again because you already did. They're meeting at the shack. The next panel should have said it won't hurt the look inside. You don't mention the shack in two different panels right next to each other when you've already identified it. You could have just said, "Hey, there's a meeting in the valley. Look, a look inside won't hurt." You don't need to identify it more than once. Okay, so he listens to the gangsters starting to discuss their plan. Come on, River, what's the idea of us wiping all our artillery? The time spent in collecting tanks and guns has not been in vain. Today we are fully armored. Listen closely. So he listens to the whole plan, and then he busts in. And right as he busts in, Rimmer says, "Bring the prisoner in." Now, I'm having trouble coming to grips with this concept here. Because they bring in the professor that gave him his power. So he says, "Turn your power off or he dies. I've learned of your activity, Firebrand, and as a precaution, seize the professor. Tie them to the stakes outside." How did you know about the professor? As far as we know, you've been collecting artillery. And he just now came on the scene. This is the first time anybody has seen him. So how have you learned his activities? You went and stopped the truck, and then you went to the valley. And I'm assuming that he killed the people in the truck, so there's no way they could have alerted you to Firebrand, who was the first people to see him besides the professor. So you knowing anything about his abilities and powers, I mean, I guess you could have tortured the doctor to tell you, but why would the doctor give up that kind of information? Okay. With your hand strapped open, you're powerless. Now to storm the sub-treasury. Yeah, I mean, like, how do you know about his abilities? It doesn't make any sense that you know all of this. Okay, so as they're strapped down, the professor is tied down. He's strapped down with his hands open. And like a well-forged army, the gangsters band set out on their deadly mission. So all the vehicles are rolling out towards the treasury except for the one that he's going to use to crush Firebrand and the Professor. We're helpless to do anything. Hundreds of innocent guards will be killed and all the wealth stolen. Not yet, Professor. Here comes our freedom. The dog, he sent a tank back to crush us. So, I don't really understand how this works. As the steel treads is about to crush him, he puts his legs up. As the steel treads touch the contact points on Firebrand's leg, a deadly electrical charge follows. I don't understand how that worked. I mean, he had turned off his powers, so there shouldn't be any electricity coursing through him. He said, when you unclench your hands, you're an ordinary man. So, how is there all of a sudden electricity flowing through your feet? I mean, and the professor says, I forgot the leg points. They must be burned to a crisp. I don't understand how that works. I mean, you're not wearing specialized electric boots, and the power comes from you clenching your fists, not just from randomly being in your legs. Okay, he tells the professor to return to his home, and he's going to handle the crooks. So, let's see, he starts going after the others by flying again. So, I mean, we see him strike his feet to go flying, but as far as we know, he would clench his fist to do that. I don't know. So, we see him fly in, and I guess he starts to melt one of the tanks because the guy goes, I'm burning, ah! And then we see the tank firing his artillery at him. The bullets, they're melting. Nothing can stop him. So now they're melting. Before they bounced off, now they melt. Okay, and we see him gearing up to use electrical blast, and he starts to blast the artillery and put them out of commission. Another one out of commission, but the others are getting away. I have to try something else. I won't need my high voltage while I look around. Why take that risk? I mean, you don't know if somebody's walking around with a gun and you're just going to turn off your electricity? Okay, they're all on the bridge. Now's my chance. So he kicks his electricity into gear again, quite literally using his feet. And while the rest of the artillery is on the bridge, he comes over and he destroys the bridge and they all fall into the water. I'm assuming that they're dead because they're in the vehicles. My work is done. Now to see the professor. Like a bolt of lightning, Firebrand severs the bridge in two, sending the gangster horde crashing into the river. And the very last panel. Later, the papers are full of your daring adventure, Firebrand. Thanks to you, Professor, we will wage a war. We shall wage a relentless war against all evil. Firebrand appears in Yankee Comics. No, he doesn't. Just make sure all the other criminals don't know your weakness first. Well, I hope you enjoyed this hero. I hope you learned a little something about really obscure character. If you ever want to see the other Firebrand or really any other people, you can always send me your requests. I love fulfilling requests. And even if not, we still got lots of Golden Age heroes. And I think I have a plan for the month of May. I want to review Archers of the Golden Age, and that should be coming up, so we'll see if we can make that work. There are a number of archers that appeared in the Golden Age that were not Green Arrow or Hawkeye. Hawkeye's more of a Silver Age. But other heroes that use bows and arrows besides Green Arrow. And we can go ahead and do those. So, until next time, I'll be seeing you.